talking about email today. You run email outreach company. Maybe introduce us to yourself.
Have built a cold email marketing agency where we do everything from start to finish. The one thing we always did exceptionally well was getting big brands as customers. Think of America, Amazon, Apple, Goldman, Disney, and how we got just about all of them.
How have you guys grown your company to where it's at?
It's like, if you knew what was happening 2 months ago, you're already behind because it's changing so fast. At this point, we actually just crossed the 100 total customer mark, and those are customers that pay us as much as $30,000 a month.
What is a typical response rate in today's day and age?
If you're getting one positive reply per 1,000 emails you're sending, just know you're doing a great job. We're sending about 1 million emails a month. We get about 70% of our lists from instantly.
Introduce us to this email newsletter that you've built and kind of the success you've had with it.
We ended up buying the newsletter back in January of this year, but it was about 5,000 subscribers. Now we're over 200,000 subscribers. It's still not making a ton of money. Like most months, we're anywhere from $3 to $5 grand of revenue. There are so many people that are getting out of the cold email game. And the reason why is because
if I was only going to have time for one of them, which one would you recommend to people to grow their newsletter from the ones that you've tried and experienced?
When you want to take things to the next level, when you want to get hyper personalized, where it feels like someone has scanned your website for 30 minutes.
All right. Welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Botman. Today, we're joined by Adam Rosen. Adam, welcome on board.
Jared, I appreciate you having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. We're talking about email today. It's going to be fun. Email is, I think, at least in our little neck of the woods here in this podcast, certainly been a hot topic of late, maybe a bit of a buzzword. You run email outreach company. You also have Nomad Cloud, other things, I'm sure as well. But maybe introduce us to yourself. Give us a little bit of backstory. Anything else we need to know going into it, and then we'll pick up right where the story starts.
And that sounds good, Jared. So for me, I never held like a true corporate job. So I started my first company about 3 weeks before I graduated from a 1-year MBA program I was doing at the time. And I had a tech startup for about 5 years. I sold it now back in 2019. And while there were a million things that we did wrong as a startup, the one thing we always did exceptionally well was getting big brands as customers. And a lot of them were, like I said, big brands. Think of America, Amazon, Apple, Goldman, Disney. And how we got just about all of them was not from a big marketing budget, was not from great connections in the space. It was from being scrappy. And how we got scrappy was through cold emailing them. So when I sold the company, I started to do a lot of work with different startups and just different companies in general. And as you, Jared, know, and probably everyone listening to this podcast knows, we all need more sales opportunities. And every company is really only as good as their top of the funnel. If we don't have new opportunities, we really don't have hope as a company. And there's, of course, a million different ways to get more top of the funnel. But the way that was always most successful for me was cold email. So one of the startups I was advising at the time just said to me, hey, man, we're struggling to get meetings on the books. Do you mind meeting with my head of sales and seeing if there's anything that we can do to improve it? And long story short, I saw there was a big gap with what they were not doing when it comes to cold emailing. I called them my co-founder of my previous startup. I said, hey, I think we can help these guys out. And we're 3 years in and have built a cold email marketing agency where we do everything from start to finish to book meetings for our customers. And we do it again.
So maybe give us an insight into where email outreach company is at, again, whatever, just to give people an idea in terms of the scope of what you do, maybe how many clients you work with or, top level revenue or just something that gives us some scope so we understand where you guys are at and how many companies you're working with.
Right now, we're working with over 50 customers. A big portion of those now are larger companies like Magellan Jets, a big private aviation company, customers like a Tomorrow.io, one of those billion-dollar unicorn weather AI startups. And we have a Fortune 500 that looks to be started with us over the next few weeks, which is exciting. And the reason why I bring that up is because in the cold email world, because of how much has changed. In the old days, when we first started the company, the first few years, almost all of our customers were early stage startups, like sub 20, sub 25 employees, because a lot of the bigger companies, they could get away with cold emailing and doing it in a relatively nonchalant way, for lack of a better word. But now, because of the level of complexity, it's weeded out a lot of folks that were just scrappy and hardworking and could put together a list and send a bunch of emails. Where now, if you don't do A through Z right, you really don't stand a chance. So it's been exciting for us to, while we still do work with earlier stage startups, the majority of our customers now are more established companies because they need the support. And, me as a business owner, I'm always looking at stability with our startup. And a great way to find stability is to find customers that aren't going anywhere, customers that have a real offering, customers that have hit product market fit, and customers that just need a jolt of new top of the funnel.
Hey there, thanks so much for listening to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Did you know that Jared and I are members of a private group called the Niche Pursuits Community? And today I want to share with you how you can join for just $1. The Niche Pursuits Community is a private members area for niche online publishers to mastermind and grow their businesses together. We hold weekly calls live with experts where you can ask questions. These experts share tips on Amazon Influencer, Google Discover, building email newsletters, getting traffic from Facebook, and other strategies to grow your online business. You'll also be assigned a mastermind group of 4 or 5 other people in a similar stage in business as you. Dive deep into your business issues and get your problems solved. If you use coupon code PODCAST at checkout, you'll get your first month for just $1. Go ahead and give it a try. Come join me, Jared, and lots of other digital entrepreneurs inside my private group at community.nichepursuits.com. And be sure to use coupon code PODCAST. I'll see you on the inside.
Get into a lot of tactics that you are seeing effective right now, but maybe before you, let's camp on email marketing company and the company that you're a part of. Like, what for you guys, I'm just curious, have been the growth levers for you guys as a company? Might be a little bit of a meta question. You're running an email outreach company. I'm curious if that's part of the answer, but like, how have you guys grown your company to where it's at? And then we'll get into, don't worry, folks, we're going to get into all the email tips too.
Yeah. So at this point, we actually just crossed the 100 total customer mark. And those are customers that pay us as much as $30,000 a month. So we have some customers with our DIY offering that pay us $750 a month. So it's a wide gamut, but we track how we got every one of those customers. So was it through cold email? Was it through a referral? Was it through a previous relationship? Was it through a podcast that I've been on? How do we get those customers? And for us, right now, it's about 50%. I think the latest numbers are up 47, 48% have come through cold email. So it's been the largest channel by more than 2x of any of the other channels. So cold email has been the biggest new business generator for us out of all the different channels.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I was kind of hoping you'd say that, to be honest with you. So you kind of let the cat out of the bag a bit. Cold email or just email outreach in general, it's just changed a lot over the last number of years. I won't even put a number on it because it has changed. Maybe catch us up to speed on what cold email outreach looks like today and maybe some of the markers that have changed over the past couple of years from a high level.
So a lot of us know about some of the big changes that have taken place in the cold email world. Like in September of last year, 2023, there was a major acquisition between Google Domains and Squarespace. Earlier this year, Yahoo and Microsoft have and other providers have put together restrictions on what can and can't fly now when it comes to cold email. Obviously, we all know about AI and all the changes that have happened because of AI in every industry, but especially in the cold email world. So those are some of the reasons why the cold email world has changed. But just some very simple things that everyone can look at to just see how different cold email is today. So in the old days of cold email, think about a year ago now. So in the summer of 2023, those are the old days now. I'm not talking 10 years ago.
Yeah, fair enough.
When we would service our full service customers, we would create about 1 domain for every customer and a few email inboxes for each customer. The reason why you do that is because even then you should never cold email. You should never mass email off your main domain. But now more than ever, you cannot do that. Today, when we work with our full service customers, on the low end, we have about 40 domains per customer. And we have some customers with over 100 domains that we're sending from. We have some customers, we have over 1,000 email accounts that we're creating to send from because you have to be so targeted now, and you have to be so you have to reach out to such a smaller audience of people now. So that's one area. Things like email copy. In the old days, you could get away with creating one good piece of copy and sending it out. Even that now is not good enough because Google and Yahoo and these other providers will see, hey, this might be a mass email. So there's things like spin tags that everyone should be aware of. And basically what spin tags does, it randomizes different parts of your email. So every email seems slightly different. And the whole purpose is to get into the inbox and stay out of spam. So those are some of the examples.
Why do you think it's changed so rapidly? And I only ask that Like, are we going to continue to see this kind of change on the horizon? Is this something where it's no longer today something that the average business owner can do? And is that supposed to, or do you think it's going to continue changing at this rapid rate like we experienced in the last year?
Yeah, cold email, like any industry. And let's even just stick to marketing. SEO has changed dramatically over the past few years, and will continue to change. Facebook ads, TikTok, Instagram, I mean, you name it, any marketing medium, especially when it comes to technology, has changed and will continue to change. So I think sometimes we trick ourselves into thinking that cold email is like a different world from every other marketing medium, but it's really the same. It's, of course, Google and Yahoo and Microsoft and all the providers are going to figure out how they can maximize their business. And then, of course, there's people like me or like you, Jared, with your marketing company or any other marketing business that now has to stay ahead of the trends, stay ahead of the changes. But I don't think cold email is any different. And yes, today we're recording this in August of 2024. I'm sure in September of 2024, I'm sure in August of 2025, things are going to look very differently. It's going to continue to change, but that's life, especially when it comes to technology. And I don't think cold email is actually all that unique.
Let's talk about maybe some perspectives for people, and then we can get into some of the details. Like, what size of cold email campaign does someone need to be paying attention to all these elements you went through, all these changes that have happened? Like, if I want to send an email to 50 people that I have gathered from a trade show, maybe I went to a trade show and I have 50 people that dropped their name. I don't know, I'm just coming up with ideas here. Drop their name in my bucket and I want to email 50 people versus 500 people versus a list I bought from a conference that's 3,000 people. Like, where do we need to start considering a lot of these best practices?
The reason why for our full service customers on the low end, we have several hundred email accounts that we're sending from is not because we want to pay for those extra inboxes. It's not because we want to send emails from multiple email accounts. We'd rather just send it from one or two. But the reason we have to do that is because of the restrictions that are in place right now, where, to give you an idea, Jared, we used to be able to send several hundred, if not several thousand emails from an email account in a day. Now you can really only send about 20 emails per inbox in a day, 20 outbound emails. So even if you have a list of 100 or 200, 300, if you want to send all those in one day, you have to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different email accounts that you're sending from. Because even for us, what we saw is that when we increased the sending limit for our inboxes across all of our customers, we increased it to 25 emails per inbox per day. Just by doing that, our deliverability dropped across the board. We brought it back down to 20 emails per inbox per day. Deliverability increased again. So these providers are getting so finicky because they want to weed out the bad emailing, where if you don't follow these rules, it's going to be really difficult to get results. So even if you have a small list of a few hundred, it's either you delay your sending quite a bit, or you get the inboxes and build the infrastructure needed to get results.
So when you say different inboxes, talk about what that looks like in brass tacks. Like, can I send from the same alias, as it were, from multiple inboxes, or do I have to be trying to send from a variety of aliases, from a variety of inboxes?
So my URL is eocworks.com. We do not send mass emails from eocworks.com. We have, I don't know, at this point, at least 300-400 different domains for my company because we're always running different outbound campaigns for us. So let's say one of our inboxes, or one of our domains, I should say, is tryeocworks.com, which, by the way, will redirect back to eocworks.com if someone were to type it into their URL, or to type that URL in. And then we'll have 3 different inboxes under that domain. So there, let's say we're emailing from me, it would be Adam at tryeocworks.com, Adam.Rosen at tryeocworks.com, and arosen at tryeocworks.com. And then we would replicate that across, however many domains we're.
Okay. So yeah, they are different actual aliases. And I hope I'm using the term right, that people are replying to, that people can see if they were to get into the nitty-gritties. And you're saying about 20 per day is really where deliverability starts to change.
Exactly. You can send about 20 emails per inbox in a day. And these aren't aliases. These are just straight up users. So if let's say you have, it would look like in that domain, you have 3 different users with headshots and everything. So these aren't even necessarily aliases.
Wow. Okay. This is probably the right time to ask it. Although I don't want to get into your success in newsletters, because we're going to talk about your newsletter, one of your newsletters, and kind of what you've done there, and almost look at it like a case study. But I think I want to ask this question now because I'm imagining most people listening are thinking this in the back of their head, like, I have a newsletter. I use a company like MailChimp. You said GoDaddy earlier. MailChimp, ConvertKit, whatever the company is. And when I have a list of 5,000 people, when I send a blast email, I'm sending 5,000 emails. Are you telling me that is horrendous for deliverability?
No, because it's through one of these newsletter services, and that's why they're so picky on they have to be opt-in, because if you have high spam rates, it affects everybody. So like we use Beehive, that's the company we use, but you mentioned a few others that are good too, like ConvertKit, for example. But it's different than when you're cold emailing, because all of the emails are kind of merged together. So you benefit from the other senders and their reputation, just like they benefit from your sending and your reputation. That's why they don't let you just put cold lists in there. And if you have a high spam rate, a high bounce rate, they might kick you even off that platform. Like we had a client come to us who was on one of those big platforms, and they got kicked off because they had a huge bounce rate, and that affects everybody. So it's really important that you don't have a high bounce rate, of course. But with newsletters, you can certainly send from one domain, one email account.
Okay. And that's really a distinction that I wanted to get out. Like that's an opt-in environment, whereas what you're talking about with the number of emails per day and all this kind of stuff, it's a cold email environment, right? It's a different relationship with the receiver, and that's why we're kind of looking at this scenario from where we're at. Let's keep talking about something else you said, which is spin tax, and I want to learn more about that. I'm sure a lot of people, that's going to be the first time hearing about it. Go into more detail on this and talk about if it's really important or if it's maybe more of a small lever mover.
It's a small lever mover, but all of these things are small lever movers that make a big impact. So for example, like spin tax is important. That's a small lever mover. Not putting links in your main email, that's a small lever mover. Not putting GIFs or images on your cold outbound, that's a small lever mover. Not tracking opens, that's a small lever mover. Not tracking clicks, that's another small lever mover. Not sending more than 20 emails in a day, that's a small lever mover. Not getting marked as spam, that's a small lever mover. Increasing the amount of replies you get, not just meetings, but replies. That's a small lever mover. So all of these little things are small lever movers that make the difference. That's why when it comes to cold email, there are so many people that are getting out of the cold email game. And the reason why is because there are so many, to your point, Jared, small lever movers where if you don't do A through Z right, you might as well not do it because you're not going to get results. But if you do A through Z right, cold email can work better than ever. We've seen that even in the last few months. We've had our best months ever when it comes to meetings and replies across our customers.
Okay, so that's actually a long list of little levers, and I'm fascinated by any others you think matter. I know they're all little levers, but to your point, if they all add up to making a big deal, like maybe walk us through a couple more of those and what we need to be doing around those.
Just to keep things simple, there's really three things that everyone should think about when it comes to cold email at this point. The first is the infrastructure. If we don't have our infrastructure built, we don't stand a chance. So when I say infrastructure, what do I mean? We talked a little bit about domains and emails earlier. So that's important. You have to create enough domains and enough emails so that you can send emails at the scale that you want to. When you create these domains, you want to make sure that the backend, the DNS records are set up. Things like your DKN, your SPF, your DMARC. Basically, those act as your registration stickers. It's like if you have your registration sticker on your car and you got pulled over, you're going to be in trouble. Same idea when it comes to email. If you don't have your DNS record set up properly, the email police officers are going to stop you and put you into spam jail. So you have to make sure that your infrastructure is set up properly. That's number one. Number two, then you have to think about your list and getting a high list quality. Now, the good news when it comes to lists, they used to be very expensive. Like people used to have to pay $1 or more contacts through a Zoom Info of the world to get high quality contacts. Like about 18 months ago, we used to sell, wasn't our main business, but we would have people that would come to us to buy lists, and we would sell them for a pretty good deal, 25 to 35 cents a contact usually. That was a good deal. Now you can get contacts for a few pennies, high quality verified contacts because of great tools out there like an instantly.ai or an Apollo or some of the other great technologies out there that can not only do your sending, but also can get high quality lists. But that's number two, is you have to make sure you have high quality lists, because if you're sending to bad emails and you're getting a lot of bounce backs, what's going to happen? You're going to go into spam. And then three, going to what I talked about earlier, of course, is copy. Now, the basics of writing good copy, and I can get, again, as nerdy as you want here, Jared, but the basics of writing good copy, again, go back into the basics. Don't track opens, don't track clicks, don't put links in your emails, don't add GIFs or memes or photos. All those things are going to increase the likelihood you go into spam. But then how do we write good copy? In the basic level, and anyone who wants this, either we'll put in the show notes or just send me an email and I'll give this to you for free, is we created a GPT prompt that basically recreates our highest performing emails for you and your specific company and your target audience you're going after. So, but a simple way you can think about emailing, what works best, and we're sending over 1 million emails every month. This subject line made my stomach turn at first. I was like to my co-founder, man, I don't want to do this. I don't like this subject line. It's one of my pet peeves. But we had a heavy recommendation by one of our coaches to try it, and it's worked out well. And now I just say, hey, the data speaks. So now I just run with it. The subject line is just hi, first name. You run with that, that's going to get great results for you. The body of your email, a simple way of looking at things is one sentence, one line. What's the purpose of your email? Next line, one sentence. What's the problem you solve? Next line, one sentence. What's your solution? Next line, one sentence. What's your social proof? Next line, one sentence. Your call to action. Hey, can I have 15 minutes to chat? So those are the basics. I'll give everyone a PS where if you want to use it, steal it, take it from me. It's not only increased our response rate dramatically, but it has gotten so much goodwill from our emailing. We have a Slack channel, 2 Slack channels, one of which is great, memorable responses. Basically, people saying we're the best email writers ever. We have another Slack channel that's like bad, ugly response where people tell us to F off. Oftentimes, literally telling us to F off.
I can imagine.
Yeah. That Slack channel, though, at this point, almost never gets any action. And I attribute a lot of that to this PS. And again, anyone steal this if you want. It basically goes along the lines of, just by replying, positive or negative, we're going to donate 5 bowls of dog food to a charity. And the reason why we're doing it is because every reply helps our domain health. The more replies we get, the better it's going to be for all of our customers, right? So that has not only got us much more replies, but people that are like, oh my God, thank you for doing that. Like, this isn't a fit for me, but thank you for feeding the puppies. And every month we do a donation to a charity and feed dogs. At this point, we're closing in 100,000 dogs 100,000 bowls of dog food that we have now contributed through that. And it's greatly increased, I should say, our response rates, which helps us get more meetings for our customers. And every meeting is so damn valuable. And then the last thing I'll say quickly is, when you want to take things to the next level, when you want to get hyper personalized, where it feels like someone has scanned your website for 30 minutes, learn tools like Clay. Clay.com, it's one of the best personalization tools out there. It's not personalization like, hey, I saw you went to this university. What do you think about the president? It's here's a message that looks like, again, I did 30 minutes of research on you and wrote you a tailored email for it. It's not easy. It's definitely more of the PhD level of emailing. But if you guys want to get to the best of the best level, those are some of the tools that I'd recommend.
Hey everyone, Spencer here, founder of Niche Pursuits. So you probably know the importance of building internal links so your site can perform well in Google. Today I want to share how Link Whisper can help you add outbound internal links to your articles. As you draft your article in WordPress, Link Whisper scans your site, identifying the best internal link opportunities. It then recommends the perfect anchor text and link to add. With just a click, your content is updated with new internal links. No more expensive tools or tedious manual site searches. Link Whisper does the heavy lifting right inside the WordPress editor. Say goodbye to the hassle of internal linking. With Link Whisper, you can focus on what you do best, creating great content. Use the coupon code PODCAST today and get $15 off. Elevate your website's internal linking with Link Whisper now. Building smart internal links just got easier. Go to linkwhisper.com today and be sure to use coupon code PODCAST to get $15 off.
You talked about copy and how important it is. In the world of responses, like what's a typical, if you do the copy right, and I know that's a very big statement, but what is a typical response rate in today's day and age? And does it vary across maybe different industries or different offers that you're trying to get across the board?
It absolutely does vary, but the biggest KPI we look at, so we look at meetings as a KPI, we look at replies, we look at positive replies per thousand. So if you want to be in like the Hall of Fame, for example, of cold emailing, if you're one positive reply per thousand emails, which does include follow-ups, might be going to 200 unique folks, you're doing a phenomenal job. And that's always the benchmark that we set for all of our customers. We have some customers, like I think our best ones are like 2.5 positive replies per thousand. We have others that are right around 1 positive reply per thousand. We have others that are lower. They're like 0.1 or 0.2 positive replies per thousand. And then what we have to figure out there is, okay, is it the list? Is it the offering? Is there just maybe a struggle to communicate the message properly? Does the market not necessarily want what they're offering? It could be a number of different things that we would need to dig into. But if you're getting 1 positive reply per 1,000 emails you're sending, just know you're doing a great job when it comes to cold email.
Okay, so it's a numbers game. I think we can safely say it's a numbers game. What typically works best to get people to, we'll say positive reply, but maybe just take the next step? Is it a meeting? Is it like, what are the types of calls to action are you making and you're seeing success with?
For our customers, almost all of them is, hey, do you have 15 minutes for a conversation? So that's typically the CTA for all of our customers, because most of them are selling deals anywhere from $10,000 annually on the low end to we have some customers that are selling deals that are high 6 to 7 figures. So for them, a meeting with a qualified prospect is so valuable to them. So for them, we're selling phone calls. But for some people, we don't work with as many of these types of folks. They're just saying, hey, go straight to purchasing. But that, of course, is a harder sell, especially through cold email, where for us, the CTA is a phone call.
Is there a role for non-service businesses to use cold email outreach? And is there a role to do it for lead generation, perhaps, or lead nurturing rather than closing a phone call or business?
Yeah, we have some customers will do more lead magnet stuff like here's a case study, or can I send you a video with more information? So you could or we have a customer working with, he's a well-known business leader, influencer that probably a lot of people listening would know. And he, for him, it is around giving away his book for free. So if you have different lead magnets, you can certainly do that through email. And to your question earlier, is this just for service businesses? No, cold email should work for anybody as long as you can get contacts, as long as you can get email contact information for your potential buyers. If you could do that, I don't think there's a better, and I'm biased obviously, but I don't think there's a better, more effective, more efficient marketing medium that you could choose.
Let's lean into that a little bit. It was on my list. I'll jump to it now. Getting contact information. I'll just leave it at that and throw that to you open-endedly. Like, where do you get these emails?
So there's a lot of different lead sources out there. My favorite is a tool called instantly.ai. They're one of the leaders right now in the cold email marketing space. They do your sending. They can manage all the replies, but you can also get high quality lists through them. We're sending about 1 million emails a month. We get about 70% of our lists from Instantly. So for most people, Instantly should be a great way to get lists, and lists at a low cost. For the other 30%, we need to get creative. We have other vendors we use for some of those more challenging lists, I'd say. But for the majority of people, you can use an instantly.ai or an Apollo to get high quality lists for a low dollar.
Okay. Is there any vetting that you recommend people do when they get a list? Is there any sort of cleaning, or is that usually something that when you get a list, it's usually has gone through those processes and you can use it out of the gate?
Yeah, tools like an Instantly or Apollo, they do a good job now of helping you clean it. So they make it easy for you because you're also oftentimes sending through their platform. And what they don't want is to be sending a lot of bad emails. So typically, like when let's say we get 100,000 contacts from Instantly, typically about 50,000 of them will be what we call double verified, which is it's very, very, very high likelihood that they're going to be a legitimate email and are going to land in the inbox, for example, or should land in the inbox, I should say. Now, if you're getting lists from other lead sources, you will want to use tools like a Zero Bounce as an example. There's many others that you can use. Zero Bounce is one that we've used a lot and we like to help verify these contacts because, again, if you get a big list, and we've seen this before, you get a big list, you're all excited about it, you do a big campaign, and you get a high bounce rate, you're almost certainly going to have your inbox landing in spam. But the bigger issue is your whole domain could become blacklisted if they see you're sending out a bunch of spammy emails to bad contacts. So you always want to make sure when you are emailing, you're sending it to good contacts.
Any tips if you've ended up on the naughty list, if your domain is in that spot, whether it's, I mean, I'm sure there's degrees of it. And so to your point, like maybe walk us through some tips to get out of that spot where your domain, maybe you've made some mistakes in the past, or maybe just without even trying, you just happen to get some emails marked as spam and it's put a little bit of a black mark on your domain.
Unfortunately, there's no like silver bullet. The one thing you could do though is let time help you and let time heal you. So even with my main domain, we made the mistake a few years ago doing a lot of mass emailing on it, and we were in trouble. Everything we were sending then started to go into spam from all of our different inboxes. But with time, with good emailing, with stopping our cold email and our mass emailing, it does tend to resolve itself. So like even one of our big customers right now, I was talking to their chief marketing officer a few weeks ago, and he told me, he said, one of the big reasons we even wanted to work with you guys is because we saw our domain health was as low as it could be. We were probably days away from being blacklisted. And now though, we've been emailing for them for several months now, and their domain health has increased as they've stopped emailing off their main domain. So step one would be stop mass emailing off your main domain. And step two is to just, start making sure you're only sending to warm, legitimate contacts, because with time, your domain health will improve.
Where can people check on, their domain health, right? Where can people go to do that?
Yeah, there's different sources. The one that we use, I'm going to butcher the full URL, but we also actually built a tool with one of our coaches that checks on our domain health across the board. So if anyone's listening to this and you want to check on your domain health, just send me over an email and I can even check that for you.
Let's transition a bit and talk about the newsletter project that you were sharing with me and its growth. I think that'll be really interesting to a lot of the people listening. Newsletters have been a topic we've talked about. We had someone on a couple weeks ago, or probably a couple months ago at this point. I always do that. Who shared a whole outline of how he's built a local newsletter for his local community. But we've been talking about it in fits and starts. Like, introduce us to this email newsletter that you've built and kind of the success you've had with it.
Yeah. So for almost 3 years now, I've been running my business as kind of a traveling entrepreneur. The more standard name is probably a digital nomad, but my co-founder and I have been traveling while building our business, and we spent a lot of time in some of the most beautiful places in the world, and Positano, Italy, Lake Como, Paris, London, Hawaii, you name it. We've spent a lot of time traveling the world as we do it. So one of the things that we wanted to do is share more about how people can travel the world and experience the beauty of travel while building a successful business or while building a successful career. And with that thought in mind, we came across this newsletter, the nomadcloud.com, and we liked the content. So we reached out to the previous owner of it, and we ended up buying the newsletter back in January of this year, January of 2024. And we've grown it now to over 200,000 subscribers, while increasing the engagement rate. So it's been a fun project because I've had a lot of people talk to me about newsletters and how can I create a good newsletter? And it was never a game I really played. Like, we were always cold emailers, but I always wanted to learn how to create a successful newsletter. So by us buying that newsletter kind of sped up our learning curve of understanding newsletters and how to get the best out of it. And because of that, now we have a bunch of clients that we're actually building out newsletters for as well. So it's been a good learning, but now we're trying to make this into a bigger business initiative where we can build out newsletters for folks.
If I could ask, when you bought it, how many subscribers did it have? What was its focus? And then, what have you grown it to at this point?
Same type of focus. It's around how you can travel the world while building your career, building your business. So like, what are some good digital nomad hotspots to go to, and different travel tips, all that stuff. But it was about 5,000 subscribers. And now we're over 200,000 subscribers. We should get to, our goal is to get to at least 300,000 by the end of this year.
Wow, that's fast in 8 months. Okay. What were the tactics you used to grow it that fast and that rapidly?
A lot of it is targeted marketing. So like, there's things that you can do if you really want to hack stuff. Like, for example, on Instagram, you can hack your way into finding out who has digital nomad in their bio. And then you can get that contact information, reach out to them and see if they want to subscribe to the newsletter. So a lot of it is that. A lot of it is, people sharing it. There's different boosts that you could do through tools like Beehive that, which is where we send our newsletters from, that can help get your newsletter in other common newsletters. But a lot of us is kind of mixing some of our cold email skills of like list building and then reaching out to those folks and seeing if they want to be a part of the newsletter.
That's great growth. What what's the avenue of monetization, if there is any, with that newsletter?
Yeah, it's been a good learning curve with that. When we bought it, there was really zero revenue. That was the other opportunity we saw, is they had a few sponsors, but they were sponsors that were stopping because they weren't getting the results that they wanted. So for us, it's been a big learning curve to understand that. But for us, we have different sponsors. We have different tiers. Like we have like a community partners bulletin where people in our community can pay $25 to $75 just to shout out like a lot of wellness events or retreats or small businesses. Then we have a premier sponsor, which is typically $500 a post, where they're towards the top of the newsletter. They get a nice image and a few sentences. And then we have a dedicated, which is typically $1,000, where we just write about that one company and how it relates to digital nomading. So that's how we've been getting a lot of our sponsors. But a lot of these tools now, like a ConvertKit or like a Beehive, they do a pretty good job of sending you sponsors too. Like they'll typically, especially because we have a good engagement rate, they'll typically give us sponsors where they do like an easy CPC where we get a cost per click on everyone that clicks on it. We get, maybe it's $1 per click, maybe it's almost $4 per click. And if you can get a lot of clicks on those, you can make a good chunk of change. So it's still not making a ton of money. Like most months, we're anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 of revenue per month on it. We're also not investing a ton of time. My two business partners on it are full time with my main business email outreach company, which takes up about 90 to 95% of our time. But it's been good the best part about it is not the money we make each month. We haven't even taken $1 for ourselves yet on it. It's been the learning and the money we've actually made from our email outreach company clients that are now paying us, maybe $2,500 or more for us to build and run a newsletter for them.
Right. What's been, if you look back at all the different ways you've grown it, like what's been the best one, or the one that you can kind of share for people who are like, it's ironic, but I just bought a newsletter myself about 2 months ago. It's got like somewhere on the same number, like 7,000 subscribers, right? And so I'm hearing all the different things you've done, but I'm curious, like if I was only going to have time for one of them, which one would you recommend to people to grow their newsletter from the ones that you've tried and experienced?
For me, it's targeted lists. Like if you can get targeted lists that would be interested and then reaching out to them and just say, hey, do you want to subscribe to this newsletter? That's the best approach. That's what worked best for us. And then the key though, with the newsletter that I found is you always want to be cleaning. Like it's not just about having a lot of subscribers. It's about having a highly engaged audience. So every month we're scrubbing. If people aren't opening the newsletters, they're off the newsletter. Because for us, what's more important than anything is engagement. So right now, our open rates are pushing 50 to 60% on most newsletters. Our click-throughs are not the best, but they're pretty good. It's around 2% click-through rates on each newsletter. And we're just always cleaning. And even when we bought the newsletter, we dropped it down to about 3,000 subscribers, like in this first few weeks, because we saw there's a bunch of people that just hadn't engaged in a long time. So the key is just not just growing the newsletter with more subscribers, but also cutting people that aren't engaging because they add no value to you.
Is there, I think I know where you're going to go with this, but for everyone listening, what are the benefits to cutting them off? Deliverability, spam, like are there other fringe benefits besides just getting rid of the dead weight?
All of that, but also for sponsors. Like if you approach a sponsor and you say, even if it's 100,000 subscribers, but you have a 10% open rate and you have a 0.3% click-through rate, they're not going to be very interested. What they really care about is engagement. So even when we work with sponsors, like they want to know the clicks, they want to know how many people are purchasing from it. They want to know legitimate engagement. They don't want to just know the total subscriber number. Anyone could have a lot of subscribers. Anyone can upload a bunch of subscribers to a newsletter. If they're not engaging, it really adds no value to you. So yes, for deliverability, it does actually help when you have more engagement, even for newsletters. But almost more importantly, it's when you're trying to get subscribers. If you have a lot of subscribers and poor engagement, they're not going to pay you. They're definitely not going to give you top dollar.
Mm-hmm. Starting to take a step back here, and as we kind of come to wrapping up, like from a high level, obviously you just live in the email world, right? You have your cold outreach company, you have this newsletter, you've been in this space for so long. You've talked at the outset about all the changes that the email world has gone through in the last year. Not trying to look ahead, but maybe with your knowledge, like what other changes are on the horizon or might be coming to email outreach just from a high level?
Deliverability is always going to be the key. How do you land in the inbox? So that will never change. There's going to be things that we have to completely redo in our technology and our systems and our outreach 2 months from now, 3 months from now, whenever it is, that we don't have to do currently in August 2024, because it's always a battle of these providers and then cold emailers of how do we stay ahead of the game to make sure that we can get results. You know, one of my favorite quotes is, you can't hit what you can't see. And I think it relates to so many things in life. It includes getting results through cold email. If you don't land in the inbox, you don't stand a chance. So deliverability is something that will always change. And that's one of the reasons even we feel so confident as a business, because some people say, oh, cold email, I can figure it out. It's pretty straightforward. It's simple. It's like, if you knew what was happening 2 months ago, you're already behind because it's changing so fast. So it's always just who can understand how to get the best results, like in any marketing medium. What works in SEO today may be completely different than what works in SEO in 3 months. So that's number one, is deliverability. But number two is AI. AI is changing so many things in our everyday lives, so many industries. Cold email is a big part of that. AI has made it so more people have access to cold emailing and thinking they can do it effectively. Great tools like Instantly or Apollo also make it easier for more people to get into cold emailing. So it's how do we understand how to leverage these technologies to get results? Because if you are a deep expert in them, you'll get a lot of results. If you are not a deep expert, you don't know how to use them properly, you're going to be like everybody else that's not seeing results through cold email.
We have a long list of things to look into. I'll tell you that much. This was really action-packed. And thanks for coming on and sharing like at such depth. I think that anybody who wants a overview probably got it in the first 5 minutes. And then anybody who wants a deep dive probably got it in the remaining time. So thanks for coming on. Where can people follow along with what you have, with what you're doing?
Yeah, you can check out our website, eocworks.com. My email, if anyone has any questions about cold email, newsletters, you name it. If you want any of the free stuff that we talked about too, any of these prompts, just email me at adam@eocworks.com. And then I'm most active on LinkedIn and Instagram, and just Adam I. Rosen is my handle for both of those.
Adam, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. This was a fun topic, and one that we haven't touched on, which is specifically cold email outreach. And you're the right person to bring on. So thanks again. Until we see you next time. Bye-bye.
I appreciate you, Jared. Take care.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the Niche Pursuits podcast. I just wanted to remind you that if you are ready to start building smarter, faster, and easier internal links, you should check out Link Whisper. You can get $15 off Link Whisper when you use the coupon code PODCAST at checkout. Head over to linkwhisper.com and use the code PODCAST in order to save $15. Thanks again for listening.